We're gonna do a little drawing today, a little visual representation. I've been thinking a lot about progress, how to know you're progressing, how to progress, what progression even looks like how do you define progression, or how do you define how you are progressing. And I've been thinking a lot about that just because as I've started to get into filmmaking, there's some days that I feel like my stuff is on point, it's super crisp, it's super awesome. And there's other days where I'm less than excited about what I filmed. And then I start to think to myself, oh man, I'm going backwards. And it can be kind of depressing. I'm going to draw progression the way that we define it and the way that we measure ourselves. So when we think of progression, the way that we measure ourselves is skill level over time. And then the way that we judge ourselves is this is what we view progression as. And if we're not just constantly increasing in our skills, we start to feel like we're not progressing. Oftentimes, if I'm not going straight up this line, then I feel like I'm not progressing and I feel like I'm failing. But when in reality, if you were to ask yourself, because I asked my wife, I was like, how would you draw out progression? If you were to have a line and draw progression, what would it be? And she said that it was accumulations of ups and downs. Sometimes it'd be way downs. So over time, your skill level is increasing, but there's going to be times when your skill level seems to be going down, and that's okay. As long as you're continuing to press forward and you're continuing to practice, that is what helps you to keep progressing. Because the more you learn, the more knowledge you gain, the more you start to realize that there's a gap between what you're doing and what you should be doing. And so you start to think that your skill level is going down, and your skill level may go down sometimes. That's totally a possibility. You may have some bad days filming, and that's all right. But what we need to remember is don't measure yourself off this straight progression line, but measure yourself knowing that there's ups and downs in your skill level, that you're not always going to be constant, you're not always going to be perfect, you're not going to always be doing the perfect shots, but that progression is not just a straight line, it's a zigzag. Progression.